Welcome to Blue Monday from the Blue Room with me, Les and Dave. Once again, the weekly schedule is all over the shop, so it's Toffee Thursday. Hope you don't mind. With United at home next week, who knows what day we're going to record on. Anyway, this week we're probably going to look ahead to the United game after we've had a little look into this new version of Everton we've witnessed this season. There's been a lot of talk about the ground, the atmosphere and stuff like that, so we're going to pull at that thread a little bit. Dave, before we go though, a quick game of You Are the Ref, if you don't mind, to kick off. So I don't know if you've seen this, but last night between Rochdale and Scunthorpe, penalty taken for Rochdale, ran up, stopped his run and just walked away. As the referee, what would you give there?
Oh, I think he plays open then. I think if he's had the intention of going to strike the ball. Now, what this reminds me of, do you remember when Pires played the little pass to Henry?
Yeah,
like 2006, something like that, and like they just messed it up basically.
Oh, completely bought. They tried to do Johan Cruyff, Jesper Olsen, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it was when I think Pires just put his boot just across it, waiting for Henry to run in, and it just took him too long or whatever, and he completely fucked it up. But yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, I can see it's what he did a few years ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, is they stopped you from stuttering running up to the ball. I think that happened a while back. Now this is this is extravagant compared to that, really, isn't it? Just stopping, turning around and walking away. And I haven't seen any comments or if he's responded to at the end of the match there. But I think it's, if he's gone up with the intention of hitting the ball but doesn't, then plays open again, in my opinion. I don't think, because if you imagine he does that and walks away, and then another player steps up and hits it and scores.
Yeah.
But then I think the other side of that is, do you have to declare to the referee who's taking the penalty? Because if you don't, it's as good of hitting the post and it coming out to somebody else, doesn't it? So I'm not too sure how you work that out, but I'm saying my view is, if he goes up and decides to turn away, that's a miss as far as I'm concerned, and you carry on.
Well, the decision that was given, and apparently it's the right one, is a free kick to the opposition. Because
that's as good as what I've said.
You're not allowed to stop your run up. So once you've started that run up, you can stutter now a bit, can't you? You can not stop completely, but if you stop completely, it's a free kick to the opposition. So that was, and apparently that also happened in an Altrincham game last year as well.
So that's sort of what I referred to there with the stutter that they tried to stop. Then it's sort of similar to that, but it's obviously it's gone a lot deeper than that, really, hasn't it? And recorded the free kick. I mean, I think it's the same difference because, well, I don't know, because if you everyone at the edge of the box, aren't they waiting to steam in for if the ball gets bounced back out?
Yeah,
I think then if it's an opponent and scores, then I can see why that would get disallowed. So I think it's probably is right to say that it's a free kick to the opposition.
Yeah.
But my word, I tell you what, we're talking about stadiums now and talking about Everton's new stadium. You wouldn't be allowed back in the stadium if you did some sort of shit like that. You wouldn't be going back in the new ground.
If you thought Onana, Barry and Beto's penalties were bad, wait until you see this one. God, yeah.
But the thing is, they probably embarrassed themselves even more by actually taking it. Should have done what that fella did.
Just like, I don't fancy it, just walk off.
Right, did anyone come out and anybody come out from the club and there was the method behind it, or did the manager come out and say, because I haven't followed it up myself?
So the look of it, he looked quite sheepish as he walked away, so I don't know if he's just got his feet, I don't know about you. Do you know when you're 10-pin bowling?
Yeah.
I've got to get my feet right to do my run up. So
this is the worst comparison I think I've ever heard.
Well, I think maybe he did that. Do you remember John Lucas then? Remember John Lucas with his goal kicks, and he used to do this mad little stutter to get his feet right? I think he's done that, and he's just sort of, he got to the ball and he's not ready to kick it.
But I don't know, because the way he walks back isn't like, right, I'm geeing myself up to sprint back around and take it. It was like, I'm walking off the pitch here. Do you know what I mean?
It's like he messed up. So Well, do you know what? We might do that every week. I might give you You Are the Ref.
Yeah.
Conundrum to start off every week.
You better than David Gallagher and the rest, don't you?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, You Are the Ref. What would you give? Whatever the referee gave. Right, just before we get into the main part of the podcast, like you said, Dave, I want to talk about the ground. A little reminder that Blue Monday is brought to you in conjunction with the Invisible Wind Factory, the first big venue you get to as you walk to the ground from town on the corner of Regent Street and Regent Road. The Windy will be back open from 5 p.m. ahead of the United game for pre-match pints of Guinness, Amstel, Windy Lager, Real Ale from Bootles, Neptune Brewery, and loads more. And there's really nice street food from Pierogi and Pickles. And we'll be back at What's the Score at the Windy. So pop in if you're on the way to the ground. And if you have something to do with the weekend with the kids, because there's no Everton, Invisible Wind Factory's got mini ravers XXL on from 1 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. on Saturday, right? A 90s and noughties dance set that's probably going to go down better with the parents than the kids. So that sounds a belter if you want to get the kids out the house. And sorry, final bit of housekeeping. I'll be quick. A reminder to give us a rating and a review if you're listening on the pod. 5-star ratings really do help. And if you're watching on YouTube, please do give us a like and subscribe and leave a comment. And if you like what we're doing and you've got a spare fiver lying around at the end of the month, please do subscribe to patreon.com/the Blue Room Extra, where you'll get all the podcasts ad-free as well as a couple of bonus episodes each week. Right, Dave, onto this new ground. Matt and Paddy did a bit on Tuesday's byline, looking at like the surrounding infrastructure, seating arrangements, and touched upon the finer details to help make it uniquely Everton. And that's the bit I want to build on, I think. So I'll just throw this out to you first before we dig into it. When you go to the new ground, does it feel like you're going to Everton?
No, but I don't want to sit in the middle of all this, and I'm saying no as in it's growing towards me. I think if it's like, I think it's too simple to just say yes or no with that question. I'm guessing, well, you know what, other fans will let us know what they think about this, but it doesn't feel like I'm going to Goodison. In fact, I think many would agree saying it's a bit of a trek, and that's what Rex had, to be honest with you, because getting to Goodison was a hell of a lot easier, wasn't it? Getting out on the County Road and then walking up to the stadium. I feel as if there's a lot to get used to with it, which I feel as if a lot of people are taking it in different strides here. You know, everybody's got a different view on this, and obviously when you're walking up with people like your mates or whoever, you know, wherever you're sitting and stuff like that, but it still doesn't feel Everton wise to me. And I've mentioned this on a couple of shows with me and you, is we sit next to each other, and I think there's maybe 2 or 3 occasions I've said to you, this feels like Goodison now. Given the wrong decisions gone against us, that's when Goodison properly kicked off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously the chances missed and getting a load of possession, you know, you're really up against that in the derby and all that sort of thing. And I think that's a common theme with most places now. Atmospheres in most places, I think, have started to die a bit of a death, given corporation, given corporate stuff, hospitality stuff, which obviously is a major role in football these days at every single stadium that you go to. I think if you hear from like diehard season ticket holders and diehard people who've gone to games for many, many years will say that and say this is not like it was when it used to be. I mean, you look at all the traditional Everton games down the years. I mean, you look at when we've won games from nowhere, last minute winners. You look at Tarkovsky's goal against Liverpool. That sort of thing has to happen, I think, for it to go ballistic. Whereas I feel like a little bit less in time, it happens anyway, and it was just a natural feral sort of feeling towards that. And I feel like we're going to the new stadium now. I think it's about finding its way. Me personally, I'm edging towards no, it doesn't. And I think that's got to do with what we're going to go on and talk about here, various, you know, facets of why that might well be. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm not looking at. It feels much more. The novelty's gone for me from the start, which I think everybody out, because it was a year, and I went to it a year to the day since they had the first.
I was the first. Oh God, yeah, it was
The
February, yeah.
With the 5,000, and that's my point. Everybody's going there like, wow, you know, you've walked into a brand new Toys R Us or something like that. It's like, you know, we're looking at everything. You're not even asked who's on the pitch, and it felt like that for the majority of the season so far. Now, when we went and won that game against Brighton, I thought that's it. Now this kicks on. This is Everton. This is everything we wanted to evolve from with Goodison, even though we're really sad that we left it. Other side of that, to go off on a bit of a tangent here, is that Goodison's still there. And that in people's, just your visual line, Goodison Park is still there. And the women's team plays there. It's great. But I think generally I'm pointing towards older fans go past Goodison and think, what a shame in that we're not still playing there. And maybe there should have been a legacy thing. A lot of people said maybe a museum, or the initial plans was to put in flats and stuff like that and really help the local community, which just sort of went by the wayside for whatever reason. I think all that comes into the middle of this. So yeah, it's taking a long way around there. I'm going to say no.
Interesting you mentioned that about Goodison. I was listening to Matt's interview with Megan from The Athletic, she had some really good insight on what it's like at Goodison now, and she described that as like a floating ghost ship to the men's team,
Right.
because she was saying toilets, the things have been ripped out the wall from when we left. Seats have been ripped out and not been replaced, obviously sent to people's homes like when you bought your seat. But there's not been, so aside from like redoing the facade outside and maybe putting some tarps up on the upper sections, there's not really been any sort of change in there. So while the changing facilities are good for the players, the rest of it just feels like a bit of a shrine to the men's team. And I think the club have got a bit of work to do over the summer on both grounds. They need to make Goodison really lean into it and make it, if they're not going to knock any of it down and rebuild it, if that's not like viable, they need to just cosmetically do as much as they can to make it look and feel like the women's own stadium. So I think one example she said with it, when you're in one of the press boxes, there's a massive picture of Jordan Pickford on the wall. It's like, that shouldn't be there now. All the pictures in the concourses of the old like 80s teams and Duncan Ferguson and things like that, that should all be gone. This is the women's home now. It's got nothing to do with the men. And I think the club really needs to consider what they're going to do with it and make that change during the summer. Likewise, I think really interesting that you said about the test event, because I remember walking in that first time at that first test event and being like overawed at the size of it, but appreciating that it still looked a bit of a building site, especially underneath in the concourse area.
A lot of it, Les.
But it's not changed. That's what I mean. So you go into those concourses and they've got the nice graphics on the wall for like the toilets and nice signs for the bar and things like that. But it still doesn't feel very Everton. There's no like the way in Goodison they put pictures of the former players up on all the concourses. There's none of that. There's nothing like that. There's very few mentions, if any, of Everton on the concourses. We'll get onto that in a bit. I'll be real bugbear with this, but I just think in the summer they got to make it more like our home and less like it still feels a little bit like the way the Park End was, where it was never ever finished. It never looked finished, the Park End underneath. It was just breeze blocks and pipes, and you kind of think just put a bit of a finish on it to make it look more appealing. I think they need to do that in the summer. I don't know about you, but I think that would make quite a big difference to me if it went in and underneath the concourses felt more like home and somewhere you'd want to stand around for a few hours before and after the game.
I was fortunate a few months ago to go to a tour, what they're doing, basically give you a look around and stuff like that, what they're planning on doing, to get your feedback on what it'd be like for fans who come in for the tour of the new stadium. And it was really interesting because they went up to where exactly where we are, where we sit in the stand, on the south stand there, and right up to where the long bar is.
Yeah.
And they're given the sort of the talk about it, the factual side of things, and the stuff why they've tried to do this and why it looks towards the city and all this very nice stuff on your eye. And I think that's the sort of thing that will appeal to those who go for a look around. And I think that's, whether it be right or wrong, that's what many things the club want to establish, is getting more people to the ground, whether they're Evertonians or not, because they want to bring in that revenue. Fair enough. But when a lot of them started questioning the couple of guys who were taking us on the tour, they were saying, there's relics in and around there from dating back to when the war was there, and I think that's a lot of what they've tried to talk about with the docks in itself. And I get that, but then when you look above, you mentioned it, and the only reason that's got me thinking about this is what you mentioned about the park. I never felt finished with pipes and all that, because if you look up when you go to the bar or the toilets where we sit, it's like that there. And I asked that question, and the guy said, "Oh, it's to keep it related to the very sort of they haven't changed too much." And it was a little bit of spiel he was coming out with that I thought he's tried to dodge that a little bit, but it actually feels like it's not finished at that part.
Yeah,
and I do wonder as if there've been a few shortcuts taken. I think a lot of fans would agree with me when I say that at different parts of the ground, and they're not. It looks like somebody's had a thought and then said, we'll do it later, and haven't gone back to doing it later. Now, maybe that's something when you're building something as big as that, everything you're doing there, the minor detail, I get that a lot of it, because it's the last thing at the bottom of a massive list. It's not going to happen for a certain amount of time. I do understand that. But stuff that's the major things that are in your eye line, I think that's the thing you've got to get right from the start. And it doesn't feel to me like we've done that at the new stadium. And look, Leslie, I mean, I think our discussion here, I think many people listening to this, whether it's sort of subliminally in your mind or not, the results we've had there this season will play a lot of part into how people feel. If we'd have gone and won 10 of our home games or whatever, I don't think we'd be having such a deep discussion about this, and we'd be talking a lot more positive about it.
Yeah, well, you can compare that with last season, to be honest. So when we left Goodison, although the last day was emotional, I couldn't wait to leave. I could not wait to get out of there, purely because the last 5 years have been grim. And last season, I mean, weirdly, last season we won fewer games there than I think we've ever done. We mentioned this last week, didn't we? So four or five, yeah. So even in those really, really grim seasons, like where we stayed up against Bournemouth, all those seasons, we won more games at home, even though it was still in single figures. So that last season really did feel like a drag. And I think everything around the whole club just felt like it did for me anyway. Like I just want to get out, get to this new ground, start again. It just felt like we were done. Now, had we won half of our games or more, 3/4 of our games, it would have been a massive wrench to leave, because I think with every win, you go out buzzing and you're like, why are we leaving this place? And I think the flip side of that, like you said, results aren't helping us settle in this season. And I think results sort of helped us move out last season, if you get what I mean. So I think there definitely is something in that. And just on your point on walking to the game, it's actually easier for me to get there than Goodison. I would much sooner do like the walk from town to the new ground than get the train to Kirkdale, then walk up to the new ground. But there is like something missing, isn't there? And I think it's that attachment that's been built up over years, really. So I know the last few years were a ball like, but even if you just go back to like Koeman's first season, that was pretty good. The Martinez first season, that was pretty good. A lot of the Moyes seasons, although we weren't pulling up any trees in any of them really, they were still like memorable. We had a lot of good memorable wins in that. And it's, we've barely been in this new ground half a season. So you've not sort of built up that emotional attachment with the ground. You've not built up that emotional attachment with the people around you. I know people are complaining, it's not who we used to sit to. And I do miss the people that we used to sit to. It was like quite a good crowd around us. But, when you first get your season tickets and you don't know anyone, you don't speak to anyone for like for ages, do you really? And then eventually you get to know people. But it takes time. Do you think we're being a bit impatient? Or do you think we just want everything now? Or what? I don't know. It's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, I think we are being impatient, because I think when it was announced that we've got a new stadium, which is 9 years ago now, I mean, we were all thrilled when that happened. I think that was on the back of what Bill Kenwright attempted to do several occasions with getting us a new stadium. I think the one for most of us that we really missed out on, where the Echo, or whatever it's called now, the M&S or Waitrose, whatever it's called, where that is now.
We'll come back that to was that the one.
What's that?
We'll come back to that later as well.
Yeah. So I mean, when every single time, and I still do it to this day, anytime you go to a concert or whatever's there, I look at it and I think, do you imagine this is Everton, where it is, right, the Albert Dock, everything you're talking about there with the relics and all that sort of side of it that guy was doing the tour with. I look at that, and then when we got the new stadium, I think, I'm not asked about that, but part of me still looks and thinks that was many years, maybe it is just me looking back to nostalgic here, but I'd look at that, and every single time, even now, go past and think, do you imagine if that ground we've got now was there? Obviously, the facility itself, I think there's nothing wrong with that. The size of it, everything that's there, the thing that you've put smack where it is right now, there's nothing wrong with that. The shape of it, everything like that. Dan Meese has done a fantastic job there. I have no denial over that. But your question there about, do we expect too much? I don't think we do, because I think obviously you're going down the road of what's the team like, what's the squad like, what's getting Moyes like, and all the stuff we talk about after post match on a weekly basis. Obviously that plays a part in all of this, but I feel as if when we go that I'm not expecting much, to be honest with you, and that's obviously to do with the results that we've had there so far this season. And let's face it, a lot of people refer to other clubs that have moved to new stadiums where it's been a difficult process to get sorted out in there. And maybe you look at them and how they sorted it out. I remember when it happened with Southampton, they ended up getting a witch in or something like that, or to put some sort of spell on it or something like that. I wouldn't mind us doing that, to be honest with you, given the way things have gone. But I feel like if you're asking for too much too soon, it still shouldn't be as poor as it's been. I think that's probably the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
Because it's been really poor for many games. Most games, we've been crap for most games. And going back many years when you had players in your team that have been there for many years, things like that don't make much of a difference, to be honest with you, because you've still got the same squad, you're still playing in the same place, you're still from the same place in general. Many players back in the day were from our country. Now you're looking at I guess most teams have a high percentage of players who aren't from, or certainly aren't local, but certainly aren't from this country. So it shouldn't be too difficult for them to move into a new stadium. There shouldn't be a whole furore about them because it's relatively simple. Add to the fact that you're buying new players, you're selling new players. That sort of thing shouldn't be that much of an issue because you're walking into a stadium here. You've got, just pick one out there, Dewsbury Hall. Dewsbury Hall's played in the Champions League with Chelsea, albeit not that much. He'll have gone around the biggest stadiums in the world. Lo and behold, he's one of our best players. Others have struggled and found it difficult to adapt to that for possibly whatever reason it is. But I do feel as if when they're going into this stadium now, it's like a gay. He's blew hot and cold, mostly cold this season. I think many would agree with, and I think that's putting it nicely. But yet he's been with Everton at Goodison for many years. He'd been to PSG for a while and come back. Yeah, he's the man that's come in and struggled at the new stadium. So I think there's a personal, there's a personal side of things with it. When you look at it and think, you know what, it's going to take a while for us to sort this out. But some of the performances, some of the games that we've had, and the opponents we failed to win against, that's been quite embarrassing. And obviously that links with, are we asking for too much? I don't think we are, given the results that we've had and against the opposition we've had, and it being a home. The other thing that adds to it, Les, I mean, there's loads of different ways we're going off in this direction here, but you look how good we've been away, makes it stick out like a sore thumb as well.
Yeah. Well, if the results had been the other way around, I reckon we'd all be a lot happier. Because you'd expect your away form to be worse, don't you? And the fact is, not many of us go away. So, like, when everyone's at home and they're churning out that every week, it's not great. But good. That was a really good point, actually, on players. So a lot is made of home advantage, isn't it? But basically, these players, if they sign for a new club, you don't expect them to take 6, 8, 10 weeks to like sort of get up to speed of playing at home because it's home. It's like you say with Dewsbury Hall, if they're good enough, they'll just be good enough. And I suppose, like you say, it does come down to just having good players and playing good football and winning football, which we're not doing at home, which is the frustration.
Look at Grealish has rocked up, like a duck to water. It's not too difficult to see that issue with players themselves. You look at Harrison Armstrong there as well. He's come back, looks fantastic for us. It'll take some time for players to get into there. There's a mentality side of things as well. But when we're watching these games, though, Les, we're like, this is hard work. This is really hard work, and it shouldn't be that way, both for the players and then obviously that has that knock-on effect to us. As I say, if you go and win 3 or 4 more games at home than what we have done already, I don't think we're having the conversation now would be that deep. But it really is a problem, I think.
Another issue people have said is the people that are going the game now. So obviously there's an extra 10,000 season tickets, I think, or whatever there is. But there's a lot more people going the game. A lot of people who were on the waiting list that could only go to Goodison as and when tickets became available. So just to sort of dig into the sort of history of football grounds a little bit. Traditional grounds like Everton were for working class supporters. They were in that built up working class area, and they represented that kind of localness. So, like you said before, a lot of the players now come from different countries, certainly not local lads. A lot of the fans are like that as well. And it's great that fans from out of town want to come and see the ground. Even if they're not Everton fans, they want to come and see the ground. That's brilliant for the club. But great that other fans like Foxy, he's been waiting ages on the waiting list. Now he's got a season ticket and he's up all the time, and it's brilliant. But what people have complained about is there's a lot of day strippers, and the very nature of football now, that's the way it's going. You've got to get the club want the day trippers in because they spend the money at the club shop, they spend the money in the bars, they don't really hang around anywhere outside, they go straight to ground, all the money goes there. And that really does change the dynamic, doesn't it? So if you think like Goodison, although people were coming from all over the country then, it still felt very much part of the locality, and there was a locality around it. It was very much a ground, and that sort of local economy and houses had all built up around there and we're all sort of a symbiotic part of the stadium, weren't they, really? And I think you definitely had that more local feel. And I think that's why it felt more like Everton, because it was very much part of that community. And there was a lot more pubs around, So I like all the pubs, we go to Wind Factory, but it's not a pub. You go to any of the bars, you go to 10th Street, Murphy's, they're nice bars, but they're not pubs. And it changes the dynamic, and there's not that community feel. So I think that probably adds to people's feeling as well, that it's not a soulless place, but there's nothing really around it to make it feel like a community. And that might sound a bit abstract for people, but I do think that plays a big part. And I think if people have got, maybe they're sat in the East Stand in the what's it called, the seating in there where you get the meal ticket and stuff like that in the program, Club View. They're sold to people who haven't got season tickets. So you could find, if you're in the East Stand, you could be sat next to someone different every other week. And that, again, adds to the feeling of disconnect, doesn't it? Because you've not got your own little community you're sitting with. Now, we know a few of the fellas there to let on to now, don't we, where we sit. And that will only grow over time as we speak to more and more people, as we go to more and more games. You see it now. We're talking to more people than we did on the first day. That will grow. But I think if there's sections of the ground you don't have that, where you've got someone coming for the day trip sitting next to you every single week, that doesn't help either. And I think that's something the club can do something about, and probably should.
What you mentioned there about various areas now where you can have the hospitality side of things, the season ticket holders can go and do that. I think you can do what City, I think, might be wrong here, setting up where you can look down the tunnel. Players can't see you, but you can see the players coming all that. And I'm not a fan of it. I think most would not be a fan of it, other than you're sort of a modern football fan. We've got
money as well.
Exactly, and we've got that's why they do it.
Yeah,
and I think that fits in. We've got American owners as well, because this sort of thing is not even new to them. Do you know what I mean? This is the kind of thing, the entertainment. I'm pretty sure that'll all come with it, with the sort of thing that they're used to in the NFL and basket, whatever it is they do over there, the various games. You go to those, and I'm not being to anything in the States, or I hope to. But many people who are listening to us would say, mate, you can just request a beer when you're sitting in your seat, and it's just a completely different environment. And obviously just
on that, I can't imagine how badly that would end.
If you could
just request a beer to your seat.
No, we've seen the police in the stands a few times, haven't we? Can you imagine? You need as many police as there are fans. That was to happen here. But I've written down the term quite simple. I've put revenue versus authenticity, and I feel that this is what's going to be an issue with us for quite some time, because Everton have never ever been a company. It is a company with a football team that's demanded or put revenue at the top of everything. Now we have to be.
Yeah.
And it's sad the way that's gone. And we can go through all the rhetoric about how football clubs need that to be getting on. And, like, look at City there. I've got a lot of City fans who used to love Main Road better, because that authenticity of what it was at the Manchester City Football Club. But it's eventually got to them and they've understood there has to get maybe not to the illegal effort sometimes in terms of getting players in, but it's had to get a level where you've got a new stadium. Etihad, their sponsors, they need that revenue in. And everybody sort of raised the bar with all of that you simply couldn't keep Goodison Park. As much as I think Bill Kenwright said it a lot, didn't he? We'd love to stay here if we could, but we can't because we need essentially a bigger stadium. We're not allowed in terms of we don't have the space and all that sort of thing. When at the time, I think, and I'd love to do a survey on this, how many fans would wish we were still at Goodison to where we are right now, given what they've experienced. And we'll go through to the final detail of what's going on inside the stadium in a minute. But like you say, I think that massively influences the perspective we look at games with when you're getting people who've just come from nowhere. And I appreciate once again, it's that caveat's there, isn't it? That you have to have fans come from different places. I speak to a lot of away fans as well. When we come out to the ground, a lot of away fans are walking back towards the city. There's not many who I've heard that have said they don't like it. They think it's a brilliant ground, well made, all this sort of thing. That helps them though, because we don't have that. We don't have that, and this is where it all connects like a domino effect. They're all saying, "I love this here, I love it here." It's firstly because it's a nice new place here, brand new that you're looking at. It's going to be a new ground. You might well have gone to everywhere else in the Premier League, but also your team's probably going to win, or your team's going to get a result, which obviously makes you like that ground. That's why we all like going to Anfield, because we always lose there. If we were winning at Anfield, we like to go there. It's just simple human. You're just a human being like that, aren't you? But yeah, the revenue side of it, I think many of us, so many times it gets complained about if you go on social media or look at all those spaces over there, and they've all been corporate seats that either haven't been sold or whatever it is, they have been sold and people haven't turned up. Now, if you were to ask the club this, I'm pretty sure they'd say, well, a fan was sick or something like that. There was a reason why they weren't able to get here. Whichever excuse they'd be able to do that. But I'm pretty certain, in fact, I'm pretty sure it's a fact to say that they don't care as long as they've been sold. And that is the crux of the problem here.
Yeah.
With everything that is not us fans who go, if they've sold it, they've got that money and they don't care. Do I have sympathy with Everton in that regard? Yes, because it needs to be done. We understand why it needs to be done. We're banging on every week talking about can we get in Europe or not. Everton need the revenue from getting in Europe, and they need it from everywhere else. So I do get that. But is it selling your soul? This is the thing that I struggle with going back and forth, because I'm thinking, well, you basically have to sell your soul to become a established Premier League club that is challenging for European football. That's my opinion there. You have to sell your soul, because I'm looking at other clubs we've been to. Spurs, I refer to Spurs a lot. Spurs have started to get it right, apart from that. They're wreaking havoc down there now, whatever manager they get. But when we went there, what was the atmosphere like with that big stand they've got there? It was amazing. And I'd been to the original White Hart Lane, and that was similar to that, only a much louder crowd and stuff like that. And I do think that right now I think Everton established, I think I'm right in saying this, they sort of got a lot of information from what it was like there, what's going on at Spurs, a bit of an influence as to what we did with our stand, the South stand, which is steep, and all that sort of thing they've done at Spurs. And it did take them some time to build an atmosphere. We speak to fans from every club, don't we? Because what we do with the previews and you meet people at games and all that. And it said to them, it took a while to establish that. So I think that is something that's always going to be, we need to keep in the back of our minds here if you go too deep into criticising the way the new stadium is. But there are factors of what I've said there about, the hospitality stuff and all that.
Yeah.
Can you complain about selling tickets for a lot of money, either the atmosphere being poor or the fans not actually attending, versus we need money to buy players?
Yeah.
And I think that, it always used to get me that when the prices were put up at anything in the ground, like they do now, people think, oh, well, you're helping the club. You're helping the club if you go and buy it. You go and get that pro shirt or the pro kit, whatever it is they're calling it there, what the players actually wear. And it's £120, whatever it is now. And people will say, yeah, but always remember, you're helping the club. You're not helping the club at all. You've got to be pretty thick to think you're actually helping the club if you're going and buying a kit for that much money. It's not helping the club at all. In a people will say it is, but in a very small way. It's not helping
negligible, isn't it? The amount it's helping is negligible, really.
It's not helping Everton to go and pay for Jack Grealish's wages. Of course, it's not.
I know those toffee donuts, Mike. They're fucking expensive.
Well, that's it. Everything is expensive, and it's where you do take advantage, and owners take advantage of that, needing what the bottom line is on their accounts and things like that. But the side of this is making me feel like it negates us as fans, I think. So when we're talking about the atmosphere, I very much feel as if that needs to be taken into account here. The fact that we do have the day trippers who, again, they're needed. Simple as that. They are needed. As much as people probably criticise what I'm saying here, they're absolutely needed because of the money. And that's why Everton have to change to be a success. And that contradiction is always going to be an issue for us all, Les.
Just on that then, to pick up on like how much it helps the club, if you look at that, if you flip that round to the seat unique seats, the very basic entry ones, you're probably looking at like 150 quid tops, which is probably double the price of what a seat would be normally. Sometimes it comes down to like 75, the same price. So, even in selling those seats to like corporate, essentially, it's not corporate, but essentially corporate-ish. That's not helping the club either, really. That's negligible. That's as negligible as buying a shirt. So I don't quite think that level of corporate invasion into the stands is quite necessary. Now, I'm all for people being able to have, if you've got any corporate facilities in the ground, which I don't particularly agree with. I don't think you should have. But anyway, that's another matter. I'll pick up on that one at a later date. But if you've got those corporate facilities, I don't think there's anything wrong with people being able to pay 400 quid, whatever, if you've got the money to go and experience it once. Let's say if you've not got 30 grand to blow on a season ticket, I've got no problem with that at all. Even then, in the scheme of money in football, £300 is negligible. But where I do have an issue, I think, is that they're selling these seats for £150. This guarantees you a seat in the ground, just a normal seat, no frills, no extra, no like paid for bar, nothing like that. It is just a seat like ours, essentially, but probably on the side or in the north stand. Then there's no real need to do that because, like you said, if you're buying £120 football shirt, the money that's going to the club doesn't really make much difference. Same if you're buying £150 seat, the money doesn't make that much difference. But what you do get is then people, they don't fancy a game on a Monday night. They don't fancy Leeds at home on a Monday night, so they're not going to pay 150 quid. Then the price comes down to 75. Then you're like, well, you might as well have just sold it to like, a walk-up or another season ticket. So I think it's still, it's teething problems you can stay still in your first season. It's stuff they've got to look at, and I hope they will look at and put right over the summer. And
where I disagree with you there, though, Les, when you're saying it's a teething problem, where I disagree with that is that it's not like you can't take an example of elsewhere and
no,
see
that's
how
true, yeah.
You look at everyone always says about Manchester City, it's always empty. You can go and get a ticket. Well, you'd have to have their postcode to get a ticket for City for obviously like security reasons and all that. But I'm pretty sure if I want to go to Manchester City, even if they're playing Real Madrid at home in the Champions League quarterfinals, I can get a ticket for it. Not a problem. Yeah. And I feel like that needs to be something that's looked at, and we should be looking at with us at our team, really. So, like I say, when we're sat there, and we always look at that specific corner, the way we look is in the corner left-hand side, where there's, I'm guessing, about maybe a couple of 100 seats empty. And we're all looking at it saying, what the fuck's going on there? Why aren't we selling out? They've been sold. Just the people aren't there. And that is smack in the middle of the problem if you're looking at creating an atmosphere. Those seats, when you've got a load of walk-ups who are desperately looking on the website to see if tickets are available or not, and they can't go, those seats have gone elsewhere where they can't come. A birthday, Christmas presents, all that sort of thing there is... It does negate us as fans, and I feel like that's what you're saying about. Does it feel like Goodison? The first question you asked there. No. Are we asking for too much? No, because it's not our fault as fans that it's like that. If you get what I mean.
Yeah. No, I agree. And to be honest, that leads me nicely onto my final and main point, I suppose, in all of this. The fact that the club have been very, very quick to pull it. What's that?
Final point was shite.
Yeah, yeah. Good night. So the club have been really, really quick to bump up the prices in the ground, bump up the season ticket prices. Although fair enough, it wasn't by much, so I was quite happy with that. We'll see what comes in the next round, the price increases. But then get all those corporate seats, like you say, the tunnel seats, do all that. They're expensive. Get the seat unique stuff, all the corporate stuff like that. And then the one thing which, in my opinion, is really important, they've totally dropped the ball with the branding. So having Everton and AFC on the seats, when you get into Goodison at Mayfield, it was Everton's. This could just be anyone's ground at the minute. I love the ground. I think it's great. I'm not slagging it off at all, but it could be anyone's at the minute that we're just playing in. It's Hill Dickinson's ground. I will come on to that in a sec. And we're just playing in it. That's what it feels like. But with the thing on the seat, to get it, but once everyone's sat down, doesn't matter because you can't see it anyway. So that disappears as soon as you get into the ground. But, and while they might make the concourses and stuff look more Everton in the summer, that's another thing as well. But one thing it's too late to do is change the stadium name. So that's Hill Dickinson Stadium. Now, I think possibly for the next 10 years, if it all plays out well. Yeah, the agreement is, so it's a deal worth 10 million annually, although some sources say it's six million plus add-ons a year, possibly for the next decade. So that will be Hill Dickinson Stadium. Now that's the bit that really winds me up, and it's a bit that they've really missed the trick with, because when that ground was getting built, it was Everton Stadium. That's what it was called. Twitter account is Everton Stadium. The opportunity there to sell the naming rights, it's Hill Dickinson, Everton Stadium. Then on each side of the ground, you've got Everton on each side. When you're coming in on the Mersey, you see Everton. When you're walking up from Regent Road, you see Everton. When you're coming over that hill and by Bootle, or is it not Bootle, is it? By Sandhills.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, from Kirkdale, yeah.
That way, yeah, you see Everton. Now, for years, we've moaned as fans, and the club sort of used it as a little bit of an excuse. Well, we haven't got the name of the city, so we're not a globally recognised brand. So one thing Everton is synonymous with is football, and top flight football at that. And you've got a massive river, one of the most famous waterfronts in the world. You've got a stadium on it, and nowhere can you see Everton. It's got the two badges, fine, but think about how they sort of fade into the background anyway, because the Hill Dickinson's so bright. And even then, the word Everton on that badge is tiny in comparison to anything. So this, to me, looks like Hill Dickinson Stadium. And sadly, it feels like it will always be Hill Dickinson Stadium. Now, you mentioned the Echo before, the M&S Bank Arena. Most people still call that the Echo because that was its first name. The first name seems to stick. Bolton played the Reebok, always will do. It's not the Reebok anymore, hasn't been for years, but that's always been their ground name. One club that didn't do that was Middlesbrough. So when they moved from Ayresome Park in 95, they called their ground the Riverside Stadium, which it's still called now. Cellnet sponsored it. It was the Cellnet Riverside Stadium. That was the way to do it. I know it's not got Middlesbrough in it necessarily, but it's like Ayresome Park, like Goodison Park. Riverside Stadium comes synonymous with Middlesbrough. Hill Dickinson's never going to be synonymous with, I hope it's not going to be synonymous with Everton because it's a company name. And I just think for the amount of money that was spent on that, and the way, they said we're going to get better at marketing, they've really gone all in on the corporate stuff. To make that simple mistake of not putting Everton in the ground name when it was already there and on show for everyone, that is what really, really burns me head out, because the opportunity was there to have the name Everton synonymous with football, synonymous with that ground, synonymous with the waterfront, and they've blown it. And that is, I know it's a very roundabout way to get into that point, but that's my main issue with this new ground. And every time I walk up and I see Hill Dickinson Stadium, no mention of Everton, it just annoys me. People might not get pissed off about that. It's fine. It's just one guy working brand and marketing, and it's a very, very basic thing. And I just find it really annoying because it was a big opportunity that's been missed. I don't know what you think about this. Is it me just having a bit of a moan?
No, I agree with you. And the other one you didn't mention is the one up the road, because I'm pretty sure the size of them get all sorts of sponsors from everywhere. They had Standard Chartered and all that, whatever it is. I'm pretty sure they could go in handy, and I'm pretty sure that club has had all sorts of companies in the world trying to get that, the Etihad. think where they've got the advantage. It's interesting you meant that, and I'm just thinking about Manchester City there. It was called the Commonwealth Stadium, I think, maybe when we were absolutely shite at first, when it had just had the Commonwealth Games there and they took it. But as far as I'm concerned, in my mind, it's the Etihad. It's known as the Etihad because they've got in early.
One it's like Arsenal with the Emirates as well.
Well, the other thing I want to get in here, quite simple, is the syllables. It's too long. Hill Dickinson Stadium. The Etihad. You know, the Emirates. It. I don't think I can ever get used to it. It's always been known as Bramley Moor Dock for me. Bramley Moor, whatever. The Everton Stadium, fine, do that. I think it happened with when that dickhead was in charge at Newcastle as well. Was it the Sports Direct something? It wasn't St James's Park.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah,
they changed an element to that really, and I do think again it's something else that you understand they've got to do. But I was quite astonished when I read the piece on this a while back, where what you make from the deal you make from a sponsor on your stadium isn't as much as necessarily what you think. Because as immediately you look at that, they must be getting hundreds of millions for that. I don't actually think it's that much.
No.
And yeah, I think they've missed that. And again, the thing that gets thrown out about that is it's a local business. Or you know, is Hill Dickinson a local business?
It's it started off in Liverpool, didn't it? It's a worldwide business, and it's it's a very sort of well-known solicitors. But I've no problem with it, being a local business. I quite like the idea of that. But it's the fact that it's their ground essentially, and we're playing in it, and we're going there every couple of weeks to watch our team play in Hill Dickinson's ground. That's how it feels. And I think just making that one really simple change would have sort of changed everything. Just one more thing quickly on this, Dave, as well. It stretches out into the market as well. So Ivory Coast v Scotland. On the poster, you've got Andy Robertson. That's bad enough. But Hill Dickinson Stadium, Liverpool, UK. That's what it's built as. Hill Dickinson, Everton Stadium, Liverpool, UK. Again, it makes that synonymous with the city that Everton's, in Liverpool. It's part of the city, which is something we've bemoaned for ages. And also there was a press release about it. I'll read it out, bear with me. But listen to the amount of mentions of Everton in this. Angus Kinnear, Chief Executive Officer at Everton Football Club, said, hosting our first senior men's international fixture is an important milestone for Hill Dickinson Stadium and underlines the credentials as a world-class venue for major sporting occasions. To stage the first ever meeting between Scotland and Ivory Coast is a fitting moment, and we look forward to welcoming 2 World Cup qualified nations and their supporters to Liverpool's waterfront for what promises to be a special night of international football.
Yeah, it's in his title, isn't it? Is where he went. That's the only thing he's mentioned, Everton. And obviously, that's not relevant, is it? There's no relevance of that whatsoever. Who he works for.
So it's extended to market, and I don't get it at all. We had the thing, didn't we? We had the email from the club about how you at the start of the season about how you've got to say Hill Dickinson Stadium, not the Hill Dickinson, not the HD, none of that. But again, it just leaves Everton out, and I can't understand why no one looked at that and thought, hang on, why isn't the club name in that? It baffles me completely. I don't get it.
Just going back to what you said there, I think that's important, because if you look at the designs of the previous failures we've had at signing somewhere, when you see on all of those designs, it had Everton written on them.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, on the glass at the back of one of the main stands, it had Everton. Even the ridiculous one that was looking at Tesco and Kirby still had Everton on it there. Yeah. And I think, and again, people will correct me if I'm wrong. The initial designs of this, in fact, I'm pretty certain because I saw the video when it was released. The Everton sign was on there, where Hill Dickinson is. That to me is, I mean, surely there's an aspect of when you're negotiating this sort of thing, you can say, look, you can have a sponsor certain side of it, wherever it is. You need to take those. You need to have that in mind when you're doing it, because Goodison Park, not the Goodison Park, I can see why they've thought out that's it, because it's not the Anfield, it's not the St James's Park. So they don't want this to be the Hill Dickinson Stadium. But it doesn't make any difference to us, does it? Because Hill Dickinson Stadium's far too long, and you see that when you go onto the side of it, and it just, it's when I come in from that, side of where Goodison direction is from Kirkdale, coming down there. It does stick it out for me a little bit that it's like I just don't see Everton. The little badges as well; those badges are far too small. I don't know if you noticed at the start of the season. At the start of the season, the badges weren't even lit.
No.
If you play them at night, you can't see the Everton badges there. So, yeah, I agree with you there, and I feel as if that's something. Well, it's not going to be looked at now, is it? We'll probably see Hill Dickinson even more, won't we, as we go forward? But yeah, another modern aspect there, which you understand you've got to sell, but you can sell it right. And like I say, where was it? Ashwood Grove, I think it was called, Arsenal's when they moved it. That's the area of
something
Liverpool.
Like that.
It was called that. It was called that before they went there, and then obviously they were taken over, or the Emirates came in. So that is established as their stadium there. City, same, established as that.
And
the question I meant to ask it is, does it have to be done? Again, goes back to that issue of revenue, but given the amount of money it's going in, I'm not too sure it's as crucial as many would think it is.
No. And what I would say about City and Arsenal is they're in very different positions to Everton. So they're now established Champions League clubs, and that's pretty much the be all and end all. So Everton, I'm going to sound the right knob here, but let's look at Everton as a challenger brand to those big brands, basically, which is what they are and which is what they're trying to be now, isn't it? Although we're like a well-established top flight Premier League club, one of the most historic clubs in the country, one more than most, we are essentially, as a sort of a brand, we're a challenger brand to Arsenal, City, Chelsea, all that lot, because they're established Champions League club. They've won like trophies like long after we have. So we're challenging them. So to not put our name on the stadium and like sort of front and centre is just a massive misstep. There's one final thing for me on this as well, Dave. They weren't so quick to name the stands either. That's another problem for me. It's the North, East, South and West stand. And it's like that just makes it even more soulless. And I hate using that word soulless because it doesn't really mean that much, really. But I just think that adds to the fact that it doesn't feel like home necessarily, because it's Hill Dickinson Stadium. We're sat in the South Stand. It's not, bad example here, Goodison Park, sat in the Philip Carter Park end. Never wanted his name on the stand ever, but you know what I mean? There's no stand names, which doesn't help either. Quick to name the ground, couldn't name the stands. Why?
Well, the thing with Goodison there is where it's very different is. Has it ever been called anything but the main stand for over a century? No. So that's fine. It's not going to change there. In fact, I think there'd be an absolute mob of us outside if there was a sponsor, an actual sponsor, and you go with Howard Kendall ends and all that sort of thing. But it's still all to us known as that. With us now, because it's new, you don't think of it as, oh, it's always going to be called Hill Dickinson, or it's always going to be called X sponsor. That stand to me is always going to be called the Bullen stand, the paddock, all of that sort of thing. There's none of that there because, like you say, it's north, south, east, west.
Yeah,
it's not. And the thing is, it's not difficult, is it? It's not. This is the problem I have with the football club over many years. There are so many things that are really simple to put into place. I'm happy if you take Hill Dickinson off the stadium. I'm happy to sit in the Hill Dickinson stand. Just get Everton on the stadium. That's the price I pay for it. I'll be sitting in the Hill Dickinson side. You know what I mean? And I think you're right. There's so many things that they haven't thought of enough. And the one thing to say to you, just interestingly, you mentioned Chelsea there. Chelsea have never changed theirs, have they?
What?
Stamford's always been Stamford Bridge. Yeah, which is interesting, really, because before the Abramovich era, they were on their asses, weren't they? Bates sold it for £1 to him, or whatever that story was. You're looking at the establishments there that you've got coming into football clubs, and I do wonder, and I think a lot of us have sort of speculated and debated throughout the new owners coming in, what the step is going to be, what's going to be the big thing they go in for, and I still don't think it's established yet. No. You look at people talking about everything from the way in which they've gone about sacking and hiring managers at Roma, to them being an American film company that are doing. They have hands in different pies all over, things in different pies all over the place, don't they? It still doesn't feel like they've sort of put the head straight into Everton. Yeah, and I don't. Hopefully that's a good thing, because I'd like to think in my mind they're truly establishing what Everton is. They're getting that sort of feedback from Kinnear, and they're just, taking a seat at the back, putting Everton on the back burner, whichever team you want to look at, and then thinking, right, now's the time where we properly, heavily get interested in this sort of thing. Because look, they haven't just bought it willy nilly, have they? They've bought it to make a profit, and surely they must be looking at things that we've seen this season. Everton need to stay in the Premier League if you're going to make any revenue as well. So, I know we've been fine this season and all that, but when you come in, I think, what is their idea about Everton? I'd love to know that, because none of them have come out and spoken about it.
No.
It's just been the owners, and that's it. And I think so many people, so many journalists would have applied to them and tried to speak to them. I don't think any of them have actually visited the ground. I might be wrong there. Maybe the odd one or two. Someone's eighth cousin removed or whatever. But we haven't seen them properly establish themselves as part of the club yet. It's just been the owners. There's no, like, you're talking about, what's his name? Freaking. See, this is what I mean. I don't know his name. Yeah, straight to my mind. And one of them starred in Dunkirk or something like that. I mean,
he was I think,
yeah. So, I mean, that's the side that sort of excites me a little bit, because I think all of us these days, like America, for reasons that aren't to do with its dickhead of a prime minister, a lot of things come out of America. It's very much like the nucleus of a lot of different things, yeah. And I think sport is probably head of that. You look at the Super Bowl the other week, how much it is to put a Snickers or whatever it is. It must be ridiculous amounts of money that you go and do that. So that part of it, like it or not, is where they will interpret Everton as sort of a global name. But then, then again, it has to be balanced with Everton needs to be a good club for people to recognise who they are. So that sadly excites me, because that's what you have to do. Budweiser, Pepsi, all that. We haven't. No, I don't think we'd be getting them without a big American company.
No, you're right.
You probably refer to that, or have a little bit more knowledge than me, talking about a marketing concept of it all. You wouldn't think Everton's machinery will be getting Pepsi in or Budweiser in. It's purely an American sort of side of things, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm hoping that's putting all the sort of building blocks in place for bigger investments and sort of moving it on, so the club can, the team can be better, because we'd all be happy then. We'll finish on that, Dave.
One thing I wanted to throw in, Les.
Go ahead.
Talking about the infrastructure and things, the way the club, it still feels like you're walking into a warehouse. When you get to where our floor is there, it feels like a warehouse, because I come out with a brand new pair of trainers. It's got dust all over them.
Still dusty in it.
Yeah, it's dusty. It's like someone needs to give it a bit of a mop. There's no tiles. You think you expect tiles, something like that. I remember we walked into Spurs and it was marble. Do you know? You go into the new shop there as well. I think it's got 3 levels. The way in which you can get about it, like there's directions pointing in various ways and all that. Just have an Everton badge on it, make it a bit easier. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to come out like I need to go and wash my kecks when I've been out there. You know what I mean? Again, that's something else finer that you just hire a cleaner, sort it out.
It's like when you get a new house, you get a snag list, and it gets done eventually. It takes ages because the builders can't be arsed once they've finished it.
And
but it gets done eventually.
Any new build house, like everything in and around it is something that you like. It has that smell all the way through it, and Everton still has that. And again, it's something that we're not used to with all of that sort of thing, is it? So, another thing on the glitch list that they need to sort out going forward, isn't it?
Hopefully they will change in the summer. Just on the smell, quickly before we go, there is a term for that. So basically, the feeling of attachment to a building is called topophilia.
You emailed me this, and I was like, I have to get a dictionary. I've never heard of this word, even though I've got an hard in English.
Topophilia, derived from the Greek love of place, refers to a strong, positive, emotional, sensory, and affective bond between people in specific physical environments and landscape. And going back to grounds, so Everton had its smell, didn't it? Going the game at Everton had a particular smell that this ground doesn't have. Derby County fans, when they moved from the baseball ground, said the same thing. they missed the smell from
that's best yeah.
When they went to Pride Park. So yeah, it's horse shit and hot dogs, isn't it? That's basically the smell.
It's a dangerous name if you say piss. I know that.
It is, yeah. Don't tell anyone you're the topophile. They won't know what you mean. Right, we'll leave it there, Dave. I enjoyed that. I'd love to know everyone's thoughts as well on what you think on, what's wrong with the new ground, what's right with it, and especially the branding thing on the side of the ground, because I feel like I'm being a little bit over the top with that, but it really bugs me. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. We will be back with Thursday, isn't it? So we've got the weekly and mailbag double header coming up on Friday. Same cast are doing both, so look out for that. Then we'll have a match preview. I reckon we do our Blue Monday on Monday ahead of the Man United game, so we'll preview that then.
These Monday night games are just playing havoc to our schedule.
Doing me head in, but yeah, we'll do Blue Monday on Monday, so we'll be back in 4 days. Yeah, thanks for listening. Up the Toffees.